Hey guys, tonight we stand on the edge of a moss-dripped archway buried deep in the jungle. The air thick with humidity and mystery, and you probably won't survive this without questioning every choice that brought you here. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments so I know where you're watching from. Now take a seat, have a warm cup of tea, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge forward into the temple's hidden entrance vines, parting like silent sentinels. Your flashlight beam cuts a narrow path through hanging roots and crumbling stone. Each breath you draw carries the scent of damp earth and something older decades, maybe centuries of untold secrets, waiting just beyond the threshold. Your heart thumps against your ribs as you step inside your boots, echoing on the polished flagstones beneath layers of fallen leaves. At first it seems innocuous, just another archaeological curiosity. A doorway carved with weathered glyphs, half concealed by hanging tendrils of green. You brush your hand across the carving's fingertips, tracing patterns that whisper of a civilization long gone. The air chills, though the jungle heat still presses at your back. You swallow and shine your light into the gloom. There's no sign of the outside world, now only the low hum of insects far behind, and your own breathing in your ears. You lift your camera to capture the moment, the red REX light blinking, committing your discovery to memory. But as you descend the shallow steps, the archway seals you into semi-darkness. You pause, mapping your path. Left leads deeper into the temple. Right, you can just glimpse what might be a collapsed corridor. With a last glance behind you, you tuck the lens away and forge onward, senses straining for any shift in the dim glow of your lamp. Moments later, you find yourself in a small antechamber. Ancient murals faded by time line the walls, depictions of hooded figures bearing offerings gazing toward a central dais. The dais itself stands empty, save for a shallow depression carved into its top. You step closer, curiosity pulling you in, and realize the depression matches the shape of the small wooden totem you discovered at the jungle's edge. A sudden jolt of comprehension hits you. This is no random ruin. It's a ritual site, and you hold the missing piece. Your pulse spikes. You raise the totem, studying its worn edges and intricate inlays. It feels heavier in your hand, like a key you're not sure you're ready to turn. You glance back at the entrance, but the jungle beyond is swallowed by darkness. The flimsy flashlight beam is now your only guide. You swallow hard and place the totem into the dais's hollow. A soft click reverberates through the stone chamber. You step back instinctively as the dais slides aside, revealing a narrow passage leading down. Dust drifts upward in tiny motes. You hesitate, mind racing. Go back and leave this mystery buried, or step forward and accept whatever lies beneath. Your flashlight battery flickers. You tap its side, urging it to stay alive. Shadows dance along the walls as you edge forward, anticipation and dread knotting in your stomach. You remember the thrill you felt when you first heard whispers of this temple, an uncharted relic said to guard untold treasures and unspeakable dangers. Now you're inside, and there's no map to guide you, only instinct. With each step, the passage narrows. Roots crease through cracked tiles as though the jungle itself is reclaiming this space. You brush past a scuttling insect the size of your palm and stifle a shudder. The walls bear more glyphs, warnings, or perhaps instructions you can't decipher in the half-light. Your fingers trace one panel. It shows a figure with a bowed head, arms outstretched. Beneath it, a symbol you recognize from the murals, an hourglass entwined with serpents. You swallow hard and shine the beam at the floor. A ring of faint lines circles the central tile like an invisible clock counting down. Your spit feels thick in your mouth. You're already committed. The entrance has closed behind you, and those steps have winked shut under fallen rubble. Turning back isn't an option. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you hear the recorder's gentle click. Your story is unfolding in real time, and you can't stop it now. You lift the camera again, holding it steady. I'm in, you whisper to the lens voice, echoing in the tight space. And I have no idea what I've just unleashed. The corridor slopes downward at a gentle angle. You take a steadying breath and descend. The air grows cooler, damper, and the faint drip of water begins to echo in the distance. You realize hours will pass before you see sunlight again, if you see it again at all. Yet something in you surges, a spark of determination that whispers you can face whatever comes next. One last glance at the entrance, now hidden by a curtain of roots and stone, confirms your resolve. You step into the unknown heartbeat, steadying beneath the weight of history pressing in on every side. You descend deeper into the temple's veins, your flashlight beam carving a thin crescent of light that barely reaches the next step. The air shifts from musty earth to the crisp chill of stone corridors. Each breath you draw feels heavier, as though the walls themselves inhale alongside you. The passage slopes gently, and you trudge forward, boots scraping over uneven flagstones worn smooth by time, and perhaps by countless unseen feet before yours. As you press on the torch, sconces you carried sputter in their rusted holders, their flickering flames casting long, trembling shadows. The amber glow dances across ancient carvings, illuminating figures locked in silent rites. Warriors raising obsidian blades, dancers swaying in ceremonial trance, priests offering incense to gods long forgotten. The paint on some of the glyphs still holds a faint red hue, like dried blood preserved in the dark. You catch your reflection in a polished section of wall and startle at the hollow ring of your own eyes, ringed by shadows. You step around a collapsed column rubble, crunching underfoot, and enter what once must have been a transition chamber. The ceiling arches overhead so high, you lose sight of its curve in the dimness. Stalactites drip steadily, each drop echoing off the stone like a distant heartbeat. You pause, letting the rhythm guide you, matching your pulse to the temple's ancient cadence. You remind yourself to move deliberately rather than charge blindly. Your flashlight flickers with a low buzz. You tap it against your palm and coax it back to life, but the soft glow remains uncertain. You switch to your backup torch, holding both lights parallel to illuminate more of the corridor. The dual beams reveal carved reliefs, a serpent coiled around an urn, a tree sprouting from a skull's eye socket, a pair of hands offering a small flame. You trace the glyphs with your fingertips, feeling their ridges, wondering about the messages they carry. Are they blessings or warnings, guides or traps? You trudge onward until the passage opens into a vast chamber that feels suspended in perpetual twilight. Here, the torchlight never quite reaches the far wall, leaving the farthest reaches in a velvet curtain of darkness. The floor is littered with broken pottery and tattered cloth. Once lavish tapestries hang in ragged strips, their patterns indecipherable. You step carefully between the debris, mindful of hidden tripwires or pressure plates. Your palms sweat against the smooth metal of your flashlight, and you wipe them on your pants, leaving faint streaks. A low hum vibrates through the air like the distant roar of ocean waves, though no water is visible. The sound rattles your teeth and sets your nerves on edge. You pause, listening, as the hum dips and rises, as though the temple itself is breathing. A shiver races down your spine. You tell yourself it's just the acoustics, just the wind shifting through unseen caverns. But deep down, you wonder if you've disturbed something sleeping. Across the chamber, you glimpse a pair of stalwart pillars carved to mimic twisted roots. Between them stands an altar carved from black basalt, its surface slick with ancient oil. You approach flashlight, pointing at the empty top, then sweep to the base, where a shallow basin holds murky water tinged with rust. You dip a gloved finger into it and taste the iron sting, untreated temple water that's been pooling for decades. You wipe your finger and shove your hand into your pocket for the water filter you packed. You unscrew it and pour a few drops of purifying solution into the basin, watching the liquid swirl. It brings a momentary comfort to know you can make at least some part of this place safe. You fill your water flask and secure it to your belt before stepping back. The hum intensifies, and you realize it's coming from a narrow passage to your right. The wall there is carved in concentric circles that seem to pulse in time with the noise. You shine your light on the glyphs, a spiral and eye a footprint. You crouch to examine a worn inscription beneath an hourglass overlaid with wavy lines. Time and water, or time and danger, your heart thumps. You run your gloved hand along the edge of the passage. The stone is cold damp and in places slick with moss. You step through the threshold and the hum crescendos, drowning out your own breathing. You raise your hand to your ear, then shake your head. Listening won't yield clarity. You must press onward. The corridor narrows again, forcing you to angle your shoulders. You flash your light upward, tracing the arch back to a jagged break where the ceiling has partially collapsed. Sunlight from somewhere far above leaks through the crack, a stark white slash against the dim stone. You remember the outside the canopy of the jungle, but that memory feels distant, like a half-remembered dream. Ahead, the corridor slopes downward once more, and you trudge on each step, now echoing in a tunnel of low-frequency vibration. Your flashlight's backup battery flashes low. You curse under your breath and switch to your headlamp, sending a cool, focused beam straight ahead. The change in perspective reveals jagged footprints in the dust, two-toed prints that shouldn't belong to you. You freeze, shining the light behind you. No other prints trace back to the last intersection. Whoever or whatever made these tracks has already moved on. A tight knot forms in your gut. You squint into the shifting shadows, heart hammering. You lift your camera and switch to night vision mode, the green glow illuminating the passage. The toed footprints stand out, leading directly onward. You swallow hard, weighing your options. Turn back and risk losing the only path you found, or follow these signs deeper into the temple's lair toward whatever awaits. Your flashlight headlamp hums as it warms, and you feel a flicker of determination. You remind yourself that survival requires both caution and curiosity. You've come this far so far that retreat might be just as perilous as forging ahead. With a slow exhale, you bend to fill your lungs and accept the hum as your guide. You take the first step forward, boots brushing over the footprints. Each stride echoes with tension. The walls tighten around you, the ceiling drips above, and the hum fades to a whisper the deeper you move. With every footfall, the temple's half-light yields more secrets and more dangers. You press forward, pulsing in time with the faint drip, drip, drip echoing through the corridor, each drop a reminder that water and time are conspiring against you. Your flashlight skitters across the walls, revealing jagged carvings, triangular teeth gaping wide, stylized vines coiling like serpents. Every metallic clang in the distance, like a gate slamming shut or gears grinding, sets your nerves jangling. You pause at the intersection where the drips grow louder, water pooling in shallow rivulets along the floor. The beam catches a series of small depressions in the stone, spaced like the rungs of a ladder. You crouch, tracing your finger through a puddle, then wipe your hand on your pants. Each depression is slightly concave, rimmed with rust-colored stains. Pressure plates, you tap the next one with the toe of your boot. Nothing happens. Relief washes over you, but you know better than to assume safety. The corridor branches again, left a faint glow, suggests torches still burning. Right, the hum returns, punctuated by a dull clang that sounds remarkably like a hammer striking a bell. You imagine a trapdoor yawning open beneath your feet, or sluice gates flooding the passage in a sudden torrent. You steel yourself and choose right, reasoning that darkness might harbor fewer surprises than flame-lured pitfall. As you proceed, the dripping slows, replaced by a steady metallic echo clang. Clang, clang. That seems to follow your steps. You sweep your flashlight beam around and catch a glimpse of something overhead, a metal bar hanging from the ceiling by a frayed rope. It swings like a wrecking ball, set loose steel rubbing against stone. You freeze, heart pounding, and watch it come to rest directly above your path. You inch forward, careful not to jostle the rope. Beneath the bar, the floor is scarred by deep grooves, evidence that this thing has smashed the stone many times before. You step around it, pressing against the opposite wall, sliding your shoulder along the mossy surface. The hum intensifies, and you sense the bar swinging again, like a pendulum testing your resolve. Your flashlight flickers. You tap it, willing it to stay lit, but the beam dims, forcing you to rely more on your headlamp's cool glow. In that narrower cone of light, the echoes sharpen a distant ring like metal on metal, a long, low moan that might be a breeze or something else breathing. You swallow, tasting the metallic tang rising in your throat. Rounding the bend, you come upon an alcove where the dripping has ceased entirely, as if this place sits beyond the flow of water. Instead, the only sound is your own breathing and the trembling of stone underfoot. The beam illuminates a triangular grate set flush in the floor. Iron bars radiate outward, forming a star. The metal is pitted with age, but a faint sheen suggests recent use. You crouch, hand hovering over the grate. Below you hear a faint clink, perhaps shards of pottery tumbling in a chamber beneath, or the teeth of a mechanism shifting. You gaze at the grate's center and notice a tiny hole just large enough for your pinky. Curiosity warps your caution, you dip your finger in and twist. A hidden latch clicks, and the grate slides aside. A rush of stale air rises, carrying the scent of metal and mildew. You shine your light down a narrow shaft, drops several feet to a chamber floor, slick with water and littered with broken stone tools. A single plank bridges part of it, rotting but intact. The clang echoes again, louder this time, as if triggered by your touch. You jerk back, sliding the grate closed. The star pattern recedes into the floor, swallowed by shadow. Your heart thunders, and you press your back against the opposite wall. Did the grate's opening set something in motion, or was the clang simply the distant echo of shifting architecture? Either way, the uncertainty is suffocating. You force calm into your shoulders, straightening your spine. Survival isn't about luck, it's about reading subtle signals. You kneel and study the pattern carved around the grate, intertwined serpents forming a ring, their heads biting each other's tails. It matches the hourglass symbol you traced earlier. A warning or a guide, you breathe out slowly and decide this grate is a checkpoint, a test of choice. You align your elbow over the latch and gently lift. The grate slides open more smoothly this time. Below the plank looks like your only way forward, the rest is submerged. You shine your light on it, carpentry marks, rough-hewn chisel scratches visible. This temple's builders anticipated decisions like yours. You position yourself, sit on the edge, and lower 1 foot onto the plank, testing its strength. It creaks but holds. You inch across beam, wavering over the water. Every drip, every echo of metal seems to amplify here, each step crisp in the hush. Midway, you pause as the clang erupts behind you, some hidden mechanism resetting. You freeze, heart squeezed. Then silence. On the far side, the plank ends at another grate, identical to the one you closed. You stand, knees shaking, and shine your light around. The corridor beyond angles sharply left, disappearing into shadows. You press forward, flashlight guiding you to a new set of glyphs, a hand reaching for a flame, then a foot stepping backward. Beneath them, a faint inscription, advance in light, retreat in darkness. You straighten, recalling how the torches, now sputtering, might still be lit ahead. Light seems safer than unseen traps in pitch black. You switch off your headlamp, letting its cool beam extinguish, and raise your handheld torch. Its flicker reveals 2 wall sconces, one holds a torch alive with flame, the other is empty. You approach the unlit sconce, noticing a rusted lever concealed behind a carved relief. You wrestle it free, and with a clunk, the empty bracket slides outward, revealing a gas line running above. You tug a small chain dangling beneath a hiss, and a brief flare as flame emerges from a hidden nozzle, roaring to life. The corridor ahead ignites shadows, dissolving into dancing light. A gust of stale air rushes by, and the metallic echo softens, replaced by the crackle of flame. You trace the beam ahead. The path is clear of obvious traps, but the walls bear fresh scorch marks. Whatever tried to halt you before has been quelled by this light. You step forward, each stride bolstered by the torch's warmth. Behind you, the grate lies dormant, the smell of damp iron mingling with smoke. You pause, breathing deeply, then push onward into the newly illuminated corridor. The carvings here depict figures carrying torches, stepping over open pits. In one panel, a figure pauses, torch held high, and a stone slab slides aside to reveal safe passage. You swallow a lump of tension and whistle softly through your teeth. Memory of the entrance to the ritual chamber. You recognize the motif, light reveals hidden doors. You lift your torch higher, letting the flame wash over the walls, reading the frescoes like a traveler's guide. The path ahead slopes downward again, deeper still, but now you face it armed with knowledge. Darkness conceals death. Light reveals escape. You keep the torch level at eye height, its glow flickering across cracked tiles and drips of melting wax on the sconce. Each footstep rings true, echoing not just through stone halls, but through your resolve. You feel the echo of ancient warnings transform into echoes of your own determination. With the flame-led corridor stretching before you, you realize this temple's voice is no longer a menace, but a map if you choose to hear it. You steady your grip on the torch and stride onward, letting the echoes guide you into the heart of the labyrinth. You slip your torch back into its bracket and draw the half-ruined map from your pack. Its edges frayed and ink smudged by damp. The light flickers over its surface, revealing hand-drawn corridors and annotated glyphs, your best clue to escape this ancient maze. You spread it across a low stone ledge as the paper trembling under your fingers. Tracing your current position, a circled X in red, you realize the route you thought would lead you back has vanished. The map's ink has bled where water pooled, erasing the exit corridor entirely. What remains are ghostly outlines of walls you can't match to anything you've seen. Your chest tightens as you press the map flat, stamping out stray droplets. This temple doesn't want you to leave. You study the remaining lines, a crooked hallway marked with a serpent's head, a pair of crossed torches indicating a light switch chamber, and an hourglass symbol beside a spiral glyph. All correspond to events you've survived: the swinging bar, the illuminated corridor, the pressure plate pit. Beyond that, the lines lead into a blank void. No exit, no promise of sunlight. A soft rumble beneath your boots makes you snap your head up. The walls shift, joints grinding, as if the temple itself is breathing, rearranging its corridors. You grip the map tighter, heart pounding. You flip it over, hoping for a sketch of hidden alcoves, but the reverse is blank except for a crude notation in shaky script. When paths fade, create your own. Your pulse ratchets higher. Create your own. You tuck the map into your pack and rise, pressing your free hand to the mossy wall. The stone is slick, and your glove leaves a smear. You follow the remaining corridors one by one, matching carvings on the walls to those on the map. A panel of dancers leads you past a collapsed stairwell. A mural of entwined serpents guides you around a sealed door. Each match confirms you haven't lost your bearings completely. The passage narrows again, forcing you to angle your torch. You pause at a fork where neither branch matches any intact line on the map. You exhale, remembering the inscription beneath the pressure plates: mark the way you come, trace the way you go. You crouch and pull a stub of chalk from your pack, your only tool to sculpt a path. You mark a small arrow pointing which path you took, then a tick for each step. You choose the left branch, echoing footsteps as you move. The corridor slopes sharply, and you steady yourself against the wall. The air grows warmer here, a faint draft brushing past your neck. You follow it, convinced it leads outward. Beneath your boot, the chalk arrow remains crisp against the tile. At the end of the slope, you enter a room with a domed ceiling, painted in faded reds and blues. Broken fragments of a massive mural lie scattered across the floor. As you step over shattered tile, you notice an alcove carved into one wall. Inside, a stone brazier sits empty, its basin coated in soot. On the floor beside it, a fragment of the map, torn, waterlogged, rests among the rubble. You kneel and pick it up carefully, smoothing the piece against your palm. This fragment shows the missing exit corridor leading up and to the east. You compare its edges to the map in your pack, sliding the torn corners together. The lines align a diagonal shaft marked by 3 triangles, then a short tunnel to a stairwell rising towards sunlight. Relief blooms in your chest as you piece it together, but fragmentation means choice. You must navigate that diagonal shaft, avoid the swinging bar pitfall again, and decipher carvings that may have changed since the temple's reconfiguration. There's no guarantee the route still exists intact. You trace the fragment's bold red line, with your finger committing each turn to memory. A distant clang resonates metal scraping stone far off to the east. You realize your window is closing, corridors may seal traps, may reset. You tuck both map pieces into your pack and rise. Testing the air again, you follow the draft toward the east, pressing through the low archway. Ahead, the corridor walls bear fresh scratch marks, claw-like gouges gouged into the stone. You sweep your torch beam over them, stomach knotting. This isn't the temple's work. Something else alive and territorial has passed through here. You take a breath, gripping your makeshift chalk arrows, and step forward. The diagonal shaft appears as expected, its floor scarred by grooves you recognize. You sidestep the grooves and press your palm against the opposite wall, brushing aside a tuft of moss to reveal a small recessed lever. You slide it up. The clank of metal indicates a hidden door shifting. You push through a narrow panel and find yourself at the mouth of a short tunnel. Your flashlight illuminates a stairwell winding upward its steps, carved unevenly from bedrock. Faint light filters down from above, promising escape. You wipe sweat from your brow and begin to climb, each step a promise. Halfway up, dust cascades behind you as the temple shifts again, a soft rumble like rolling boulders. You hesitate, breath catching. If you stay too long, the staircase might seal. You accelerate, ascending 4 steps at a time. On the landing above you, pause to check your pack. Your chalk arrows rest neatly inside, just enough to mark 2 more turns if needed. You step into the archway above and find a fork left a sliver of sky. Right darkness and the metallic echo of trapped mechanisms. You glance at the fragment map, edges worn, but clear the corridor to sunlight angles left. You choose left without hesitation, ascending 2 more steps to reach a low doorway plastered in moss and vines. Light seeps through, painting the stone threshold gold. You place 1 foot outside, then the other, feeling the cool breeze tug at your clothes. Relief surges, tears threatening. You step fully into a small, overgrown courtyard, ancient columns reclaimed by foliage framing a patch of midday sun. You shield your eyes and look back through the doorway at the dark passage you've conquered. The temple's voice, the hum, the clangs, the flickering torches fall silent behind the mossy arch. You slump against a broken pillar, heart pounding, and pull out the torn map pieces to align them once more, confirming your success. Sunlight warms your face, and you let yourself smile, chalk-stained fingers trembling with triumph. The exit is only yards away now, but you pause to savor the victory. Where the temple once shifted walls to trap you, you emerged by reading its signs and tracing your own path. You stand pocketing the maps and step toward the edge of the courtyard. Vines curl around your ankles as though reluctant to let you go. You yank them free, brushed with clinging soil, and move toward the perimeter where the jungle stretches beyond. Breathing deeply, you wipe your forehead and glance back at the dark archway. The temple's entrance, a static monument once more, now stands unchanged by your passage. You realize that the labyrinth only held power over you because you believed the path was fixed. By marking your own way, you rewrote its rules. You step out, boots sinking into soft earth. The canopy above rustles in welcome. You look around for the path home, knowing this courtyard connects to a hidden trail leading back to the clearing where your journey began. As sunlight floods your world again, you tuck the chalk stick into your pocket, a memento of how you carved your escape. You lift your head, drawn by the familiar calls of jungle birds, and set off toward home, heart buoyed by the knowledge that when walls crack and maps fade, you can chart a course of your own. Your throat feels coated in dust the moment you emerge from the courtyard, and your stomach knits itself into tight, painful knots. You lift your pack from your shoulder, weighing it against your ribs, and realize the water bladder is nearly empty. Just a few dull sips remain. You pat the side's fingers, brushing against packets of dried mango and a half-crushed energy bar. It isn't much, but it's all you've got. You settle on a mossy stone, its surface cool beneath your thighs, and break the energy bar in half. The brittle pieces snap under your fingers, releasing a faint tang of processed sweetness. You pop 1 fragment into your mouth, teeth crunching, and chew methodically. Each bite tastes of desperation and relief. You close your eyes, leaning your head back against the column, and let the solace of flavor wash over you. Opening your pack again, you find 2 dried mango slices folded like brittle paper. You tuck them between your teeth and chase them with the last glug from your water flask. The water tastes stale, tinged with the faintest metallic edge, proof of its passage through temple sprawl. You swallow slowly, mouth dry, and feel the mango's sugary chew ease the ache in your gut. You scan the courtyard, broken columns framing a circle of wildflowers, their petals bright as spilled blood against the earth. Beyond the trail, back to the jungle waits, but you hesitate. This can't be the end of your odyssey. You've already conquered shifting walls, treacherous traps, and oppressive darkness. Yet hunger gnaws at your resolve like an insistent whisper, find more or weaken. Your fingers seek the water filter attachment you tucked into a side pocket. You unscrew it and walk to the far edge of the courtyard, where a small trickle of water seeps from a cracked pillar. You kneel and cup your hands, feeling the water trickle over your skin. You release a drop of purification tablet into the stream, watching it fizz briefly before you press your lips to the flow and drink deeply. The water is cool, alive, and you nearly gasp at its crispness. You fill your flask, mindful of every slosh. Returning to your stone seat, you pack the filter carefully away. You feel the ache in your shoulders, loosen slightly, buoyed by hydration. but your energy is still sapped, and the journey ahead demands more than dried fruit. You rifle through the pack until you find a small metal can preserved meat in brine, a luxury you almost left behind. You twist the lid open with a practiced flick and peer inside. The meat is pale and slick, suspended in briny liquid. You scoop a small piece onto your tongue. The salt hits your taste buds first, then a smoky undertone. You chew and let the flavors linger, wincing at the oily residue that coats your tongue. Still, the protein fortifies you in a way sugar never could. You swallow and reach for a piece of mango, letting the tang cut through the brine. You pause, closing your eyes as the courtyard sounds surround you. A distant bird call the rustle of leaves in a light breeze, the soft drip of water from the cracked stone. Hunger dims, replaced by a steady warmth spreading through your chest. You remind yourself that this nourishment is more than calories. It's proof that you planned for this moment, anticipating the temple's tests. You place the empty can back in your pack and swing it over your shoulder. Your hands linger on the straps as you stand, muscles stretching after the brief respite. Each step you take toward the jungle path feels firmer, rooted in the knowledge that you haven't just survived thus far, you've prepared. Yet you know this sustenance is temporary. The trail ahead may not offer more rations, and the challenges could intensify. But fortified by food and water, you feel the spark of determination blaze brighter. With every challenge met, you've learned to adapt to ration hope as carefully as your supplies. You step onto the narrow trail leading from the courtyard, boots crunching over fallen leaves. The jungle darkness enfolds you, but your senses are sharpened. Each rustle could be wildlife or shifting stones. Each breath draws in the scent of earth and growth. Hunger is no longer a roar, but a whisper reminding you to keep moving, to seek exit, to stay alive. You tuck your pack higher on your shoulders and straighten. Ahead, the canopy parts enough to let in shafts of light that guide your path. You focus on those beams, stepping from shadow to shadow, mindful that nourishment is as much mental as physical. Each calculated bite, each measured sip has stoked your resilience. As you emerge from the temple's threshold into living green, the weight of the past hours presses at your back, but your strides are steady. Hunger's bite has been tempered by resourcefulness. Thirst has been slaked by foresight. You carry on fueled by every scrap you rationed and every ounce of water you purified. Ahead lies deeper jungle and eventually home. You step off the courtyard trail and back into the temple's embrace, where the thin shaft of daylight fades behind you and the air turns cool and still. Your footsteps echo as you re-enter the corridor, but soon the echoes are joined by something else, an almost imperceptible susurrus, like distant voices whispering secrets from within the stone. You freeze, heart fluttering, and strain to hear. The whispers come again, closer this time. Soft, slithering syllables you can't place. They trail down the passage ahead, swirling around corners and dancing across the walls. Your flashlight beam wobbles as you raise it, searching for the source. The whispers retreat, flowing deeper into darkness, luring you onward. You swallow hard and keep pace, each footstep measured to match the rhythm of the murmurs. A sudden drop in temperature makes your breath fog in front of you. You rub your arms, blinking as your eyes adjust to the dim glow. The corridor walls here are covered in narrow vertical slits, vents or arrow loops. You can't tell which amplify the sound into a chorus of ghostly voices. It's as though the temple itself is talking. You grip your backpack strap tighter and force your mind back to logic. Stone expands and contracts, wind whistles through crevices, acoustics play tricks. But instinct nags that there's more, a presence, or perhaps the ghosts of explorers past. You press on flashlight, tracing the lines of carved glyphs, a hooded figure cupping a chalice to whisper into rows of dots radiating outward like ripples. Below, a single word in the ancient tongue translates in your mind's eye as listen. The wall seems to lean closer, urging you to heed its counsel. You pause, pressing your palm flat against the stone. The whispers swell, rising in an indistinct crescendo, then recede to a low, insistent hum. You close your eyes and tilt your head, letting the voices guide you. They seem to drift to the left around a corner where your light doesn't yet reach. You take a shaky breath, then step forward, following the sound. As you turn the corner, the corridor opens into a narrow gallery, lined with carved alcoves. Each alcove holds a fragment of sculpture, A broken hand here, half a face there, all gazing into the darkness. Dust motes drift in your torchlight, giving the scene a dreamlike quality. The whispers bounce from alcove to alcove as though the sculptures themselves are speaking. You swallow and edge forward each step, stirring the dust into tiny eddies. In the center of the gallery, the floor is inlaid with a circular mosaic of colored stones, now dull with age. The mosaic depicts a coiled serpent around an ear, its tongue flicked out. You kneel, brushing away debris to reveal a small inscription, "Speak truth," and the path opens. You glance around, noticing a shallow basin set into the wall beside the mosaic. A dried smear of crimson on its lip suggests it once held offering liquid. Your pulse quickens. Speak truth. You draw in a breath, and in a soft voice you say, "I seek to leave this place." Your words echo faintly. You bend to touch the basin, expecting nothing. Instead, the whispers halt, replaced by a single resonant note that vibrates through the stone floor. The mosaic glows under your flashlight, the serpent's eye a red gem flaring to life. The gem's light traces a path outward, 3 imprinted footprints in the stone, leading to a side passage you didn't notice before. You stare, heart pounding. The carving's throat-thick shadows retreat, revealing a narrow opening, just wide enough for you to squeeze through. You rise and step toward it, mind racing. Was that a trick of light, or did the temple literally respond to your words? You slip through the opening and find yourself in a smaller chamber, whose walls slope inward, forming a rough cone. No carvings here, only smooth stone, but the whispers return softer, friendly, almost like distant counsel. You press your ear to the wall and hear a single phrase in a voice that feels both male and female. Courage, born of honesty, forges doors. A cold shiver runs down your spine. The only exit is a low tunnel at the cone's base, lined with faintly luminescent moss that pulses gently beneath your torch. The moss's glow matches the gem's light in the serpent's eye, a sign you think that you're on the right path. You crouch and crawl, arms brushing the moss's soft coating, feeling its slight tingle under your gloves. The tunnel slopes downward at a steep angle, and you slide on your knees, torch held high. Halfway down, a low rasping sound stops you, friction between stone and something metallic. You freeze and pivot your light, revealing a narrow gap between 2 massive stone slabs. Through the gap, you glimpse a shadowy shape, gears maybe, or chains hanging in the darkness. The tunnel seems to intersect a deeper conduit where the temple's inner machinery grinds. The whispers swirl again, urging you forward. You press your shoulder against the nearer slab and push. It resists, then shifts with a rumble, grinding slowly aside to reveal a hidden stairwell coated in bioluminescent moss. Stairs carved unevenly into the bedrock ascend in tight spirals. The scent of wet earth and mildew intensifies. You climb each step, echoing in a hollow throat. The moss's gentle glow highlights each tread, guiding your feet. The rasp returns an unseen latch, resetting behind you as the slab seals shut with a dull thud. You're committed. You press on heart, steadying as the whispers fade behind you and resolve into a single clear voice that says, "Trust the path you have claimed." When you reach a landing, the stairwell opens into a circular room, whose ceiling is capped by a round skylight far above. Moonlight filters in pale and cold, illuminating a pedestal carved with an ear and a key symbol. A second basin sits beside it, clean and dry. No inscription here, but the message is clear: hear and unlock. You gaze back at the steps, then raise your hand in silent acknowledgement to the temple's murmured guidance. You step forward, planting your palm on the pedestal's stone ear. It vibrates warmly under your touch, and a click resonates through the room. The moonlight intensifies, revealing a hidden door beneath the pedestal, its outline etched with a serpent in flight. You slide aside the pedestal, finding the door's latch and pull. Cool nighttime air gushes in, carrying distant jungle sounds, and you breathe in deeply, feeling the sanctuary's hush break. The door opens onto a rope bridge suspended over a chasm. You glimpse the jungle beyond, framed by moonlit sky. You step onto the bridge, letting the temple's voice recede behind you. With each plank beneath your feet, the whispers fade, replaced by the night chorus of cicadas and frogs. You glance back at the dark opening you emerged from and whisper, "Thanks," knowing the path was unlocked by the truth you spoke. You take a final step onto solid ground, the bridge swinging gently behind you. The moonlight feels alive, and the jungle welcomes you with open arms. The temple's story continues without you, but its voice lingers. Honesty and courage sculpt doors in even the deepest shadows. You lift your face to the moon, heart calm and clear. The corridor of whispers is behind you now, but you carry its lesson within words, can open paths when stones refuse to budge. You step off the rope bridge and back into the temple's bowels, guided by a sliver of moonlight that glows through cracks in the cracked ceiling. The corridor widens into a vast hall hung with stone pillars, rows upon rows of monolithic columns, carved to resemble tree trunks entwined with serpents. Their surfaces glisten with damp moss, and the air hums with a low, rhythmic vibration. Your torch flickers across the first row of pillars. You notice at once that they don't stay where you last saw them. A pillar that stood firmly to your left now leans to the right. Another has shifted forward, narrowing the passage. The columns seem to breathe, sliding silently along grooves embedded in the floor. Each shift rearranges the labyrinth's geometry, turning certainties into mirages. You swallow hard fingertips, brushing the cool metal of your flashlight. Panic flares, but you hold your breath and focus. You remember the map's admonition to mark your own path. You pull the chalk from your pocket and notch a small arrow on the base of the nearest pillar, pointing back toward the entry. The chalk dust falls like tiny snowflakes, settling at your boots. You advance pillar to pillar, leaving tick marks on each one. The gaslight from your torch breathes life into the carvings, serpentine coils, and warrior figures, and you recognize the sculpted shapes as silent signposts. When a pillar shifts, you pause, waiting for it to settle before marking it again. Every chalk arrow is a lifeline, an imprint of the route you carved. A soft rumble vibrates underfoot, and you glance at the wall runes, a pair of intertwined pillars with an arrow winding between them. Beneath a single glyph of an open eye, you echo the carving, stepping between the current position of two pillars and pausing long enough for the rumble to pass. The pillars halt their glide, sealing 2 rows apart. You mark your passage with a check. You notice sweat beading at your hairline as you progress deeper. The hall stretches on pillars, fading into an inky gloom. You tap the torch's side, keeping it lit, and whisper to yourself, 1 pillar at a time. You crouch at a junction where 3 columns converge, each shifting like tectonic plates. You step back and square your shoulders, trusting the pattern you glimpsed in the carving. The sculpture eye carved on the wall resonates in your mind. Look for the gaze, it seems to say. You train the torch across the pillars, searching for a column whose serpent eye motif matches the murals. You find one, a coiled snake with a ruby inlaid as its eye. You notch its base and press your hand against it. Its cold stone is etched smooth by time, and you push gently. With a grinding hiss, the pillar swings aside, revealing a narrow corridor beyond. You step through chalk arrow, pointing the way you came. The moment you clear the pillar's path, it slides back into place with a final thud, erasing any doubt about your exit. You exhale and reload. The new corridor slopes down under a low arch, and you emerge into a smaller labyrinth. This time, the pillars are irregular in shape, some hewn to resemble coiling vines, others carved like humanoid forms with toe-like roots. The ceiling is too low to mark these pillars. Instead, you press a thin strip of your map, now brittle and damp, into the crevice between 2 trunks, anchoring it to note the branching path. You move forward each step, pressing on the map to hold it in place until you can notch the adjacent pillar. The rustle of stale air around you sounds like distant whispers. You decide to hurry, knowing the temple reconfigures itself on its own timetable. You trace the map's arrows, crossing a junction where 4 pillars meet. Choosing the path annotated with 2 ticks, each tick representing a successful turn, you step boldly, trusting your earlier markings. A sudden shift jolts the ground beneath you. One of the pillars slides a fraction, cracking the stone floor. You stagger, heart racing, and your torch dances across the carvings. You realize the shift formed a dead end beyond you. Retreat could trap you. You mark this pillar with an X in chalk, no entry, and pivot around, sprinting along the path you'd marked with arrows. Ahead, you glimpse a sculpted relief of a figure pushing a pillar aside. Beneath, the inscription reads, "Only the marked may pass." You breathe a soft laugh, chalk dust sprinkling. The temple itself acknowledges your handiwork. You trace the relief with awe and step forward, letting your chalk arrows be your proof. After winding through 5 more pillars, you enter a triangular chamber where 3 massive columns converge at odd angles. In the chamber's center, a mosaic floor depicts a compass rose, its points aligned to the pillar's current positions. You crouch and study the mosaic, matching its orientation to your chalk arrows. North corresponds to the pillar with 2 tick marks, east to 1 tick, and south to the well-marked exit pillar. You recall the map's compass notation from the fragment piece "Exit lies east, northeast." You orient yourself accordingly, rise and place your hand on the mosaic's eastern point, feeling a faint warmth through the stone. The pillars shudder, sliding along their grooves to form a straight path leading northeast. A hidden panel clicks open in the far wall. You step through chalk, liable but satisfied. The next corridor is narrow and dark, but free of shifting columns. As you advance, the hum of the temple's mechanisms fades, replaced by the gentle drip of water far below. You pause at a carved relief that shows a column uprooted, symbolizing final escape. You imagine your own emergence, no more shifting stone, only solid ground underfoot. You wipe the sweat from your brow and glance back once at the labyrinth you've mapped in chalk and relief. The pillars stand motionless now, awaiting their next challenge to unwary travelers. You pat your pack, noting that your chalk stash is half gone, but enough for what remains. The narrow corridor slopes upward, leading to a low doorway, sculpted with the ancient explorer's motif, a figure bearing a torch and a staff. You step through, leaving the hall of shifting pillars behind, as though it never existed. Your boots scrape the worn threshold, and you find yourself on a stone ramp, illuminated by bioluminescent fungi. As you climb, warmth returns to the air, and the scent of wet earth drifts in. You trace a final chalk arrow on the rim of the doorway, a silent thank you to the temple's secret pathways. The shifting pillars remain imprinted in your memory, a testament to adaptation, observation, and the power of marking your own way. You ascend the ramp 2 steps at a time, chest swelling with quiet triumph. The Hall of Living Stone lies behind you, but its lessons, faith in your own markings, trust in subtle clues, and the patience to wait for shifts to settle, guide you forward. The ramp levels off, and you push open a low stone door into a vast chamber where the only light comes from the cracked ceiling, far above moonlight so faint it barely penetrates. You switch off your torch and headlamp together, plunging into absolute blackness. For a heartbeat, you hear nothing but your own ragged breathing. Then the silence presses in so dense, it feels as though the temple itself has swallowed every droplet of sound. You stand still, every nerve electrified. The carved reliefs along the walls, once vibrant maps of escape, are now unreadable shadows. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. Your heart hammers, and you force yourself to inhale slowly, filling your lungs with the stale air of ancient stone. Your fingers fumble at your belt for the chalk, groping blindly until you find the stub and tuck it in your pocket. Even chalk marks are useless here. A drip echoes somewhere to your left, startling you. You remind yourself that you can navigate by touch and memory. You align your shoulder against the right wall, fingertips grazing the rough carvings that guide your path. Each carved snake coil or toe-like pillar root becomes a tactile waypoint. You step forward 1 slow foot at a time, heels tapping in time with your pulse. Your hands brush a pillar carved with entwined dancers, the sign you used before to find the torch chamber. You press your palm into its grooves, then pivot and stride forward, trusting muscle memory. The floor beneath your boots is smooth, worn flat by countless feet, and you trace the polished stone's edge with your toe to stay centered. A breeze whispers past your ear, carrying the faintest scent of moss and wet stone. It hints at an opening above, perhaps a collapsed ceiling or a hidden shaft. You follow the current, veering left, where the air seems cooler. Moments later, you feel a depression in the flagstone underfoot. Kneeling, you run your fingers along a seam in the floor and find the outline of a hidden trapdoor. Your heart stutters. This could be a shortcut or a death trap. You place your weight carefully on the seam and push. The slab lifts with a creak, revealing a narrow shaft descending into total dark. Below you hear the distant echo of dripping water and a faint metallic clank. You hesitate. Descending risks new hazards, but standing here risks wandering in circles. You take a steadying breath and lower yourself into the shaft palms and toes, probing for grips in the stone walls. Your descent is slow, each fingerhold slippery with ancient grime. In total blackness, you rely on the texture of the walls, a carved channel here, an exposed aggregate there. Your muscles burn with each pull, but adrenaline carries you through. At the bottom, you land on damp earth knees, buckling slightly as the ground shifts beneath you. You taste grit on your lips. You rise and sweep your hand forward, fingertips brushing tall reeds that grow strangely from cracks in the chamber floor. Behind them, a shallow pool ripples with your movement. You follow the reeds along the pool's edge, shifting your weight so you don't slip into icy water. You remember the map's warning, water here speaks of passage. Next to the reeds, your hand finds a carved stone bench. You sit and press your cheek against the cold surface, letting the darkness ground you. You close your eyes and replay the sequence of tactile waypoints, serpent dancers, the central pillar, the hidden trapdoor. You map them in your mind like a relief sculpture. You feel a click beneath the bench. Your pulse quickens. Did your weight trigger a mechanism? You retract your hand and find a shallow depression that you hadn't noticed before. You press it, and a section of wall slides aside with surprising smoothness, admitting a rush of air so fresh it carries a hint of dawn. You smile in the dark. Even without light, you recognize that scent. Freedom is near. You stand and lean into the opening lungs, drinking in the crisp breath. Through the gap, you sense the corridor above slopes upward. You push through and find yourself against a sloping stairway carved into bedrock. Without pausing to look, you begin your climb, hands grazing festooned roots hanging down to guide each step. Your feet find the treads by texture, worn smooth at the center, rough at the edges. You inch upward, breath rasping in your throat. The stairwell narrows, forcing you to angle your body. Dust showers down with each movement, and you cough into your elbow. At the top, you reach a low ceiling beam. You press your hand against it, then stand upright and step into a vestibule that suddenly glows with a cool, pale light. Bioluminescent moss growing along the walls, casting a gentle glow that reveals the way forward. In that soft illumination, you see a series of carved footsteps leading out of the chamber. You trace their pattern with your eyes, heart soaring. They match the sequence you felt in the darkness. You follow them each step, guided by the moss's glow, until the corridor opens into a small antechamber, ringed with carved faces watching you. You pause at the threshold, realizing you've survived the trial of darkness. You reached through fear, mapping the unseen and trusting your instincts. Ahead lies renewed clarity, but in this moment you linger, letting the afterimage of total blackness remind you of how far you've come. With one final breath, you step forward, leaving the dark trial behind and carrying its lesson in every careful footprint. You step into a wider chamber where the hush of solitude dissolves into the distant scrape of metal on stone. Your torchlight reveals footprints that aren't yours, deep-booted impressions trailing into the gloom. A pulse of apprehension rushes through you. Someone else is here lost as you were, and their presence feels as precarious as your own. You advance carefully, scanning for movement. The air tastes of dust and stale breath. Your flashlight illuminates a jagged alcove where a figure crouches behind a toppled pillar. The stranger hears your approach and bolts upright, pressing a hand to the pillar's edge, eyes wide. You freeze mid-step, hands raised to show peace. "Wait," you say softly, voice echoing. "I'm not." He leaps aside with a harsh grunt and draws a hunting knife that glints in the torchlight. Your heart pounds. You swallow and drop your pack with deliberate caution, hands visible. Easy, you urge, voice steady. "I'm alone, no threat." He sniffs, eyes darting to your water flask and rations strapped to your belt. "Prove it," he spits, stepping forward so his blade is between you and your supplies. His ragged expedition gear suggests he's been here days, hunger and desperation etched into his gaunt features. You inhale, recalling every lesson of this temple trust must be earned, not granted. "I found this totem piece," you gesture toward the small wooden artifact tied to your pack. "I unlocked corridors. I'll share information if we both stay safe." He cocks his head, blade wavering. "Information won't feed me." His voice cracks. He's more bone than muscle. "You got water?" You nod and hand him your flask. He drains half in one pull, eyes flicking to your face for any deceit. You wait, Then he slams the empty flask onto the floor and breathes, "I'm Jonas. I got separated from my guide. I've been..." His shoulders slump. 3 days. Your heart sinks at his desperation. You kneel and retrieve your water filter attachment, unscrewing it deftly. "Here, purify more from that pool over there." You point past the pillar to a dark pool fringed with lichen. He hesitates, pride warring with need. Finally, he crosses and kneels at the water's edge, fumbling the filter onto the flask. While he works, you scan the chamber. Mossy pillars ring the space, their carvings too dim to read. A single lit torch burns in a bracket opposite the pool, flickering low. You dip your hand into your pack and produce a match, lighting a second torch to brighten the room. Jonas straightens flask at the ready. "Thanks," he mutters, voice rough. He glances at the burning torches, relief softening his gaze. You slip the match back into your pocket. "You need food," you offer. He shakes his head, eyes darting to your pack's rations. "It's yours," you say. "There's fruit meat." He runs a hand through sweat-matted hair. "I'll share what I have." He unslings a tattered satchel and pulls out 2 energy bars. He tosses one to you, and you catch it, heart-warming at the gesture. Rationing isn't just about resources here, it's about respect. You break the bar in half and offer him yours. Jonas nods, and you both sit on opposite sides of a pillar, eating in silence. The shared crunch of fruit and nut bar bridges the gulf between stranger and ally. When the last bite is gone, Jonas stands and dusts off his pants. "What's your plan?" he asks, voice steadier now. You unfold your patched map under the torchlight, showing him the chalk-marked route. He squints, trailing a finger along the red lines. "These pillars shift," you explain, tapping a column with one tick. "I've marked the ones I passed. If we follow the east-northeast corridor, it rises toward light." He studies the map, then looks up at the pillars. "I saw a door past that water alcove," he says, pointing beyond, "but it was sealed." You nod. Maybe the door and the rising corridor converge. You fold the map carefully and tuck it back into your pack alongside Jonas's satchel. We move together. He sheaths his knife and extends a hand. You shake it, feeling the tremor in his grip. Agreed. You relight your torch from the bracketed flame and step toward the pool's edge. Jonas moves beside you, pace is sinking. Together, you traverse the corridor where water drips from stone heads, angled to spot glyphs you missed. He points out a serpent and hourglass motif hiding behind mold. "That's the trap sequence," he warns. "I triggered it once, saw spikes rise and close behind." You slide past the motif with careful steps, replicating his description. Behind you, a mechanical hiss confirms the trap has reset without snaring you. Jonas exhales. Good work. You guide him on, and each time a pillar shifts or a glyph blends with stone, you both mark it, him with chalk, you with fingertip notches on your map. The alliance deepens as you navigate the shifting hall, 2 minds interpreting riddles where one faltered. After winding past 5 columns, you reach the sealed door Jonas spotted. Leaf mold coats its seams. You brush away debris to reveal a recessed keyhole shaped like the wooden totem you carry. You draw it out and slip it into place. The door groans as its locks unwind. Jonas grips his torch higher as the doorway slides aside, revealing the staircase you marked in your fragment map. It spirals up toward a distant shaft of moonlight. You lift Jonas's lantern toward the opening. Pale silver light cascades in. He turns to you, eyes bright with grateful relief. Together, he says, you nod and step into the stairwell side by side, leaving behind suspicion and hunger's loneliness. Your alliance tested and forged in desperation, you climb each step, carrying not just weight, but the promise that you're no longer alone. You emerge from the spiraling stairwell into a chamber where the air hangs heavy, clinging to your skin like wet cloth. The moonlight that guided you fades behind a web of hanging roots, leaving only the pale glow of Jonas's lantern and the faint bioluminescence of moss at your feet. Your legs tremble each step up the stairs, stole more strength than you realized. A wave of bone-deep fatigue crashes over you. Jonas staggers beside you, torchlight flickering across sweat-lined brows. His earlier resolve falters as exhaustion drips from his shoulders. You see the hollow in his eyes, the way his knife-bearing hand shakes. You press a hand to his arm. Are you okay? He nods, voice raspy, hungry, tired. He leans against the cool stone wall, sending a cascade of dust motes dancing in the lantern glow. "I haven't felt this." His words catch on a gasp as his knees buckle. You catch him bracing his weight. Your own breath comes in painful gulps. Your backpack's weight map, totem supplies, presses into your shoulders like a guillotine. Every muscle screams protest. Your stomach churns with hunger thirst, a dull ache at the back of your throat. The corridor behind you promises nothing but more stairs. The tunnel ahead is a blur of shadows. You realize you've reached your crucible of despair, the moment when perseverance itself frays under relentless trial. The temple's trials have battered your body, bending your will toward surrender. You swallow past a knot of panic. This is why explorers never return a single crack in resolve, and the darkness claims you. You scan the chamber. Pillars loom like silent sentinels, arches carve phantom doorways into shadow. A low drip echoes from somewhere behind you, counting down the seconds of your endurance. Jonas's lantern sputters, and you catch his reflection in the polished stone, gaunt cheeks, bloodshot eyes. You squeeze his shoulder. "We can rest," you whisper. "Find a moment." He leans into the wall, drawing a shaky breath. You gently push him toward a fallen column, acting as a bench. He collapses onto it, eyelids heavy as stone. You set your pack at his feet and kneel beside him, untying the leather strap to retrieve the last energy bar. It's been 12 hours since the courtyard rations, now it must sustain both of you. You break the bar in half and hand Jonas his share. He takes it wordlessly, eyes half-lidded, and chews with small mechanical bites. You pop the remainder into your mouth, letting the sugar burn bright through your weariness. Your jaw aches with the effort. "Water," you ask, voice hoarse. Jonas reaches into his satchel and retrieves the empty flask. You squeeze your own flask until beads of cool liquid tip into his mouth and onto his chin. He swallows gratefully. The energy and water ripple through your joined bodies like whispers of hope. Jonas exhales and straightens, pushing yourself up against another pillar. The cold stone stirs your senses. You cup your face in both hands and splash your cheeks with leftover water. The chill stings, waking you from the haze of exhaustion. "We need to move before we sleep," you say firmly. "If we fall asleep, the temple might shift and we won't wake." Jonas nods, understanding the unspoken threat in your tone. Even the briefest rest here could become a tomb. You gather your chalk and map from your pack, but the map is too worn and wet to unfold. Instead, you touch each chalk-marked pillar you passed on the stairs. Faint arrows still cling, carved into the mossy base. They form a trail leading upward through a narrow arch. You point. "This way." Jonas rises carefully, supporting himself on the bench. You offer your shoulder, and together you shuffle toward the archway. Each footfall is deliberate. Your legs threaten to buckle. You press your palm against the squat arch's stone, which thrums under your touch. The inscription above, barely legible, reads, "Strength is forged in trial." You whisper the words to Jonas' voice, trembling. He nods, shoulders squared by a flicker of defiance. "Let's finish this," he murmurs. You guide him through the arch and into a sloping corridor that ascends at a sharper angle. The moss here glows faintly, lending an otherworldly haze to the stone underfoot. Every step is a battle, calves burning thighs, trembling like jelly lungs rasping for oxygen. Your vision narrows to the moss-lit path ahead, every other detail blurring. A sudden shudder ripples through the corridor as one of the pillars ahead grinds aside, likely prompted by the archway's disturbance, and a hidden side passage opens. The passage's ceiling is marked with a carved spiral, the same one you saw at the ritual dais. You recall the totem's fit there and realize fate still beckons you deeper. But you have nothing left to give. No energy bars, water nearly gone, breaths shallow. The side passage looks tempting, a chance for a reprieve, but the main corridor ascends more steeply, promising exit. You glance at Jonas, whose face is contorted by pain. "We press on," you whisper. He nods, every movement heavy like wading through mud. You take his hand, and he rests his weight on you as you climb together. The concrete walls close in and the slope's angle steepens until you're battling gravity itself. You press your palm flat against rough stone to hoist yourself up each step. Every muscle contracts, begging for rest. Your mind stumbles at the thought of giving in, and you banish it. You are not done. After what feels like an eternity, the corridor levels off and opens into a final chamber. A shaft of moonlight pierces through a circular opening above. illuminating a stone dais framed by two pillars carved with intertwined serpents. You know this must be the temple's apex, a final trial before freedom. You and Jonas slump against opposite pillars, too spent even to speak. Sweat and grime coat your skin. The chandelier of moonlight above seems both distant and divine. You feel the floor tremble, perhaps the temple's final heartbeat. Summoning every last ounce of will, you crawl toward the dais, dragging yourself over polished tiles. Jonas reaches for your hand, and you grip it tight. Together, you place your palms on the dais's smooth surface. You feel a subtle vibration beneath your fingertips. A low rumble resonates, growing louder until the stone walls hum. Moonlight flares through the opening, bathing the dais in silver radiance. The serpent pillars groan and slide aside, revealing a stairway spiraling upward directly beneath the beam. You have no strength left to rise immediately. Instead, you close your eyes, letting the moonlight's glow wash over you, warming your battered limbs. You feel Jonas's hand squeeze yours, and you draw courage from his presence. In this crucible of despair, you have forged an unbreakable bond. With trembling limbs, you begin the final ascent, each step a victory over the despair that once threatened to consume you. You hoist yourself onto the first body, trembling as the moonlight spills in like a promise of dawn. Each footfall sends a quake through your legs, muscles screaming beneath your weight, lungs panting so fiercely it feels as though they might collapse. Yet with every step you force yourself onward, summoning a flicker of courage from the deepest parts of your memory. You think of home, your mother's laughter that rang like church bells across the kitchen, the scent of cinnamon and brewing coffee greeting you every morning. You remember the worn armchair in the living room where you curled up with a book as a child head, resting against the soft cushion as the world drifted by. You taste summer evenings on the porch, learning the constellations with your father, pointing out Orion's belt above the backyard fence. Each memory glows in your mind's eye, like beacons lighting the stairwell's cold stone. As you climb, you repeat a mantra under your breath, "Home awaits." The words reverberate against the pillars, merging with the temple's own hum, until your heartbeat shifts, steadying into a rhythm of determination. You press upward, fingertips grazing the serpents carved into the railing symbols of rebirth and renewal. The carvings feel warm beneath your fingers, as if sharing their ancient strength with you. Halfway up, your hand slips on the moss-slick stone, and you catch yourself on one knee, chest heaving. Your body rebels. Every fiber aches, and doubt coils around your heart like a serpent. You imagine collapsing into the darkness, becoming another lost soul in this labyrinth. But then you see it, a faint scratch on the step ahead, a single chalk arrow still clinging to the stone. Your own mark made in a moment of clarity. It reminds you that you've already conquered shifting corridors, swallowing darkness and rewriting the temple's rules. You push yourself upright and place your hand over the arrow, feeling its reassuring grit. You rise and continue each step, now lighter buoyed by the sign of your past resolve. Your mind drifts again to home, your sister's text telling you she believes in you, the smell of rain on hot pavement when you last returned from a short trip. You recall the way your dog greeted you, tail wagging ferociously, like it could lift your entire body. Those small moments have anchored you in the world outside these walls, reminding you that your life extends beyond the temple's cold stones. A low rumble shakes the stairwell, dust drifting from the ceiling. You pause, heart thumping, but you no longer panic. Instead, you grip the railing, feeling its solidity beneath your fingers. You step forward as the rumble subsides, each movement deliberate, toe, flat foot, heel. You climb faster now, adrenaline sharpening your focus. The staircase narrows into a squat passage where moonbeams blur into silver ribbons. Here, exhaustion threatens again, your eyelids droop, tongue thick in your mouth. You close your eyes for a heartbeat, imagining your mother's gentle voice whispering, "You can do it." Someone taps your shoulder and you startle, blink back tears of gratitude and press forward. The passage spits you into a final chamber where the ceiling opens to the sky. Stars twinkle overhead, distant and eternal. A single stone arch draped in vines frames the way out, a threshold shimmering in moonlight. You feel the weight of every trial behind you, 100 hours of darkness, hunger, fear traps and shifting walls. Yet here at the edge of freedom, the temple feels still, as though it acknowledges your triumph. You step onto the arch's threshold, breath catching at the chill of night air on your sweaty face. Beyond lies a steep slope of loose stones leading into the jungle canopy. You glance back at the stairwell's mouth, an iron door of stone that has sealed you in and spat you out. The contrast strikes you. The world inside was ruthless and mysterious. The world outside awaits with warmth and familiarity. Your legs wobble and you pause, pressing both hands to the arch's mossy sides. You breathe in the jungle's humid scent, flecked with distant bird calls and the rustle of leaves. You fill your lungs with fresh air, letting it wash away the final vestiges of the temple's hush. You let the memories of sunrise fill your head, pink light through your bedroom window, the comfort of familiar walls. With a steady exhale, you take your first step down the stones. Each foot scrapes gravel, sending echoes down into the dark pit you left behind. You steady your balance with fingertips, brushing the trailing vines, slipping as you adjust to uneven ground. But you keep moving, imprinting each footfall on the damp earth. Halfway down, you pause to catch your breath and glance up at the flicker of moonlight through the arch. You realize you're no longer afraid of the dark. That terror you carried for hours, loneliness, hunger, doubt, has been replaced by a quiet confidence seeded in every choice you made. You remember the way you spoke truth at the Whispering Basin, how you lit torches to banish shadow, how you mapped your path in chalk. Each act fused into a beacon of self-trust guiding you now. Your pulse steadies, and you begin the final descent. The jungle floor rises to meet your boots, thick roots woven like a welcoming carpet. You brush them aside and step onto a narrow trail lined with broken pottery shards, compass points to your exit. No map needed now, your feet know the way. You break through the final curtain of hanging vines and emerge into a moonlit clearing framed by tree. Your breaths come in ragged gasps, body trembling in a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. You stretch your arms wide, letting the cool air brush your skin. Your face lifts, eyes closing, as tears slip down your cheeks, tears of relief, triumph, and gratitude. You stand there for a long moment, the world silent, except for the distant call of nocturnal creatures. Then, clearing your throat, you reach into your pack and pull out the wooden totem. You hold it aloft, tracing its carved lines with your thumb. It served as your key, and now rests in your open palm, a symbol of your journey's beginning and end. With the totem in hand and the memory of home in your heart, you step off the trail. The temple's entrance lies behind you, hidden beneath vines and darkness once more. Ahead, the path stretches toward the narrow logging road you followed in, and then to the dusty highway and the world beyond. You start walking each stride, firm ankles sinking into soft earth. The moon guides you down the trail, and you think of morning's light of coffee brewing in your kitchen, warm laughter, and the safety of your own bed. Your steps echo with newfound courage. You survived 100 hours in an ancient temple, emerged unbroken, and discovered that borrowed memories can ignite the fiercest sparks of resilience. You steady your breath and step back from the moonlit threshold, heart hammering as you press your palm against the cool stone of the sealed door. The arch is carved with coiling serpents whose eyes seem to glint in the pale light. Above, a worn inscription reads, "Silence guards the sacred." You inhale slowly, savoring the hush, then drop to your knees and examine the mechanism, a narrow slot as shallow as the etched glyph beneath it, a stylized ear. You reach into your pack and draw out the wooden totem, its carved form worn smooth by your grip. Sliding it into the slot, you feel the grain catch against hidden teeth. With a soft click, the door shudders. You press your shoulder into the stone and push. The seals grind against each other, low groans echoing through the chamber, until at last the door swings inward. A breath of warm, fragrant air washes over you, carrying the faint scent of incense and damp earth. You tuck the totem back into your belt and push the door fully open, revealing a vast circular room bathed in torchlight. Dozens of torches line the walls, their flames steady despite the temple's usual appetite for chaos. Each torch is set within a carved niche shaped like an outstretched palm, as though the temple itself offers a guiding hand. Stepping across the threshold, you feel the hush lift like a veil. Whispered echoes of chanting drift through the air, but the words are indistinct, lost to time and reverence. The floor is polished black basalt, reflective as a calm pool, and your boots clack softly as you walk toward the room's center, drawn by a stone dais crowned with a single low-burning brazier. You approach the dais, its carvings depicting a cycle birth, death and rebirth, each scene framed by writhing serpents. The brazier's flame flickers blue, casting dancing shadows that morph into dancers, warriors, and supplicants on the walls. You kneel before it, placing your hands on the dais's edge and letting its warmth seep into your weary bones. A voice seems to rise from the flame itself, a low, melodic intonation that stirs memories of distant chants. You press fingertips to your lips and listen, a vow half heard, half remembered. You whisper back, mimicking its cadence, and the flame pulses in response. You close your eyes and feel the temple's pulse sync with your own heartbeat. When you open your eyes, the brazier's smoke has formed a spiral that curls upward and drifts toward a vaulted ceiling you can't fully see. You realize this hidden heart is both chamber and sanctum, a place of communion between pilgrim and temple. You stand and circle the dais, tracing the carved cycle with reverent fingertips, each relief a testament to the temple's beliefs that silence holds truth and that truth begets passage. At the western wall, you spot an alcove half concealed by flickering shadow. Stepping closer, you find a niche holding an onyx bowl filled with water, so still it mirrors the torchlight above. The water is dark, as though infused with the essence of night. You remove the lid, a thin slab of carved stone, and see your reflection staring back, eyes lined with soot and determination. You bend and touch the water's surface, sending ripples outward. The brazier's flame quivers, its blue hue deepening. You stand and return to the dais, eyes seeking the inscription carved beneath the central relief. You find it etched in tiny script, reveal what silence conceals. You kneel again and whisper, "I reveal." Your voice catches, you glance around, feeling exposed by the chamber's quiet gaze. "My truth." You meet your reflection in the bowl and place both hands on its rim, steadying yourself. The water's surface shivers, then rises slowly, deliberately, like a tide drawn upward by moon. The pool overflows, the dark liquid sloshing over the edge in a gentle cascade that drains into channels carved in the floor. The moisture glistens under torchlight, pooling in a ring around the dais. You stand watching as the serpentine carvings along the dais's base shift, grooves sliding open to reveal a hidden spiral staircase descending further into the earth. The chanting echoes grow louder, a chorus of voices rising from deep below. Your chest tightens with anticipation. You rise and step onto the first brass-reinforced step. Boots silent on the dark stone. The staircase spirals down into a narrow shaft, walls lined with carved reliefs that glow faintly in phosphorescent lichen. Each panel depicts a stage of the spiritual journey, awakening trial, insight, transcendence. Your heartbeat echoes in your ears as you descend. Midway down, the chanting resolves into a single clear voice, reciting an invocation you somehow recognize. From silence comes the path, from truth the door. You trace the glyphs on the wall as you pass an ear, a spiral, an open doorway. You realize the sealed door you opened was only the first threshold. This hidden heart demands more, a willingness to listen, to speak truth, and to step into the unknown. You reach the bottom step and find yourself in a small subchamber whose walls shimmer with 1,000 embedded crystals. Their facets reflect torchlight in a kaleidoscope of color, emerald, sapphire, ruby, painting the chamber in living hues. In the center stands a second brazier, its flame white and pure. You approach slowly, each step measured. The air here feels charged with expectation. You place one hand on your chest and the other on the brazier's edge, feeling warmth spread through your palm. The voice intones again, now speaking in your own tongue. May your heart remain silent unto truth, that your path may always remain clear. You close your eyes and exhale, understanding that this hidden heart is a crucible of self-discovery. The silence you broke with the totem carved open the way here and now. The temple offers its deepest secret, a mirror of your spirit, a test of integrity, and a blessing for the journey beyond. When you open your eyes, the brazier's flame flares bright and then dims to a steady glow. You place both hands on the white brazier, whispering a vow beneath your breath to honor the temple's silence, to carry its teachings with humility, and to never let fear eclipse your voice. With that vow, the crystals flicker back to darkness and the chamber's lights fade until only the brazier remains lit. A hidden panel slides open in the far wall, revealing the final stairway up. You have unlocked the temple's hidden heart, and now the way out awaits. You step away from the white brazier heart soaring and climb the narrow stairs toward whatever dawn may bring. You push onward, up the final spiral staircase, each footfall echoing like a drumbeat of fate. The air grows warmer and drier, as though you're ascending from the depths into an oven of stone. Beads of sweat trail down your temples, mingling with the grime on your cheeks. Your muscles tremble with fatigue, but a fierce determination fuels you. Beyond this final stair lies the ultimate test, a mechanism of metal and bone that promises either passage or oblivion. At the top, you emerge into a circular chamber, unlike any before, a vaulted dome of polished obsidian, unbroken by pillars or carvings. In its center stands a massive contraption, a wheel of interlocking gears and serrated spokes suspended above a pit yawning into darkness. A lever protrudes from the base, crafted from the same black stone worn smooth by countless hands. Around the rim of the pit, a ring of rusted hooks suggests that any misstep could send you plummeting into the abyss. Jonas stumbles into the chamber behind you, torchlight trembling across the mechanism's spokes. You meet his gaze, and in his eyes you see your own reflection, weariness laced with unwavering resolve. Neither of you speaks, words would only betray the tension thrumming in the air. Instead, you sidle closer to the mechanism boots, skirting the pit's edge, hearts pounding in unison. You examine the gear's 4 large cogwheels, locked in a tight embrace, each inscribed with a glyph, matching those you've encountered: serpents, hourglasses, dancers, and eyes. The lever, when pulled, will rotate the wheels, shifting the pit's hooks inward or outward. You remember the carved warning in the hidden heart. In silence and truth, the right path is revealed. Now you must deduce which configuration opens a safe passage. You crouch, running your fingers along the serpent-etched cog. The glyph's curves guide your touch to a tiny indentation, a hidden button. You press it and the faint click echoes through the chamber. The adjacent cog, etched with an eye, twists a fraction. You rise and test the lever's resistance. It moves freely, but you hold it halfway, listening. A single gear grinds, shifting the hook slightly outward, revealing a narrow ledge around the pit's edge. The shift is subtle, but promising a sliver of stone, wide enough for careful passage, emerges. You exhale and lower the lever fully, watching the serpentine cog lock into place. The hooks retreat further, and the ledge becomes more defined, a path you can step across if you maintain perfect balance. Jonas watches, breath held. "That could be it," he whispers. You nod, though you still feel the weight of doubt. One wrong move, one misaligned cog, and the hooks will snap back, sealing your doom. You hold your torch low to illuminate the ledge and test its width with your toes just enough. You step onto the stone-ribbon heart, thrumming like a hummingbird's wings. Behind you, the pit yawns, black and hungry. Ahead, the opposite edge reveals a low door carved into the obsidian wall, its handle shaped like a coiled serpent's tail. This is the exit you seek. You balance on the ledge, each breath measured, each footfall slow. The slight sway of the chandelier above, powered by unseen currents, throws dancing light across the gears. Halfway across, the gearwork clicks and the hooks shift inward again. The ledge narrows ominously, forcing you to freeze. Your heart leaps into your throat. You cling to the cogwheel hand, pressed to the cool metal, willing the gears to stay. Jonas, seeing your peril, lunges and wraps both arms around the adjacent pillar, pressing his weight against it, his boots braced on the opposite rim. Together, your combined stability holds the mechanism in its half-open position. A bead of sweat drops from your chin and splashes into the pit below, and you feel the world hang by that fragile moment. You whisper a vow, silent plea, and promise into the cool air. We cross in truth. You test the lever again with your knee, securing it just enough to lock the gears in place. The ledge holds, with hearts hammering. You inch forward, dragging Jonas behind you. Each step is an eternity, until at last your boot touches solid stone on the other side. You exhale so forcefully, your breath catches in your chest. Jonas staggers upright, torchlight trembling across his face. You share a glance, an unspoken acknowledgement of victory, and then you both turn to the low door. You reach for the serpent's tail handle, fingers trembling. The metal is smooth, inviting. You pull and the door swings open into a narrow corridor bathed in pale pre-dawn light. The fragrance of fresh air drifts in, accompanied by distant bird calls, breaking the temple's centuries-long silence. You step through the threshold, letting the warm air wash over you. The obsidian door slams shut behind, sealing the final trap forever. A deep rumble reverberates as the mechanism locks its gears, spinning to rest. The pit's hooks recede at last, dormant, until the next foolhardy explorer arrives. You and Jonas stand in the corridor, shoulders heaving, faces wet with sweat and relief. Sunlight filters through a crack above, illuminating a steep ascent clothed in vines. The end of the temple's labyrinth lies ahead, freedom, morning, and the world beyond. You press your palm against Jonas's arm. "We made it," you whisper. He nods, voice thick with awe. "Together." With that, you begin the final climb toward daylight. Each step a testament to solidarity, courage, and the truth that in silence you found your way. You haul yourself up the vine-laced slope, each handhold a lifeline, each footfall a defiance of gravity. Above you, the arch of sky widens, and dawn's first pale light filters through the canopy, painting the world beyond the temple in soft gold. Your muscles scream in protest, lungs burn, but every ounce of strength pulses with the promise of freedom. Beside you, Jonas latches onto a gnarled root and heaves himself upward. His breaths come jagged, but his eyes shine with the same fierce relief burning in your chest. You reach out and steady him, letting him lean into your shoulder before he pushes onward. The roots tug against his backpack, but he navigates around them, guided by the widening shaft of light ahead. Halfway up, you slip on damp moss, and panic flares memory of the pit's hooks snapping shut. You clamp your teeth and hook your fingers into a knotted root, jerking yourself upright. Jonas catches the edge of your pack, steadying you with a rough, "Got you." You exhale, tasting the sweetness of dawn's air, and press onward with renewed urgency. Above the sky crescendos into a blazing palette of rose and amber. You scan the temple's mouth, an oval opening, framed by dripping vines and fractured stone, and realize it stands a dozen feet above you. Each root and ledge below is your path. Your heart pounds as you calculate the final stretch, 30 feet of steep scramble. No room for error. You push off the mossy wall and scope for the sturdiest root, a thick rope-like vine that curls down from the chamber rim. You grip it and haul yourself higher, knuckles whitening with the effort. Below you, the temple's obsidian floor lies invisible in shadow, a void you refuse to consider. Your vision narrows to the vine and the sky beyond. Jonas follows, whispering encouragement, "Keep going." The dawn chorus of birds crescendos around you, a symphony of life beyond stone. You let their song fill your mind, easing the tremor in your limbs. With a final heave, you swing your leg over the edge and plant your boot onto solid rock. Jonas scrambles after you, and together you topple into the open air, breathless hearts racing. Sunlight drenches you as you push away from the temple's rim. The ground is soft with leaf litter, and earth a stark contrast to the cold stone beneath your palms moments ago. You stagger upright, gulping in fresh morning air, chest heaving. All around the jungle, awakened cicadas hum, distant howler monkeys call, and a breeze rustles through palms and ferns. You swivel, eyes drawn to the temple's mouth behind you now, a silent black moor framed in lush green. The vines you climbed hang like triumphant banners. For an instant, you feel its weighty stare, the echo of its trials. Then you turn back to the world it kept hidden, the sun rising over mist-shrouded valleys, the dew-glazed undergrowth sparkling like scattered jewels, the promise of path and purpose beyond. Jonas exhales a long, shuddering breath and drops to his knees, pressing his forehead to the earth. You sink beside him, letting the soil cradle your calves. The fatigue crashes in, and you allow yourself a moment of surrender. The sun warms your back as you close your eyes, the day's first beams promising renewal. After a long moment, you rise and offer Jonas your hand. He takes it, his grip firm and grateful. You stand shoulder to shoulder, gazing at the horizon. A narrow logging trail weaves through the trees, a ribbon of practicality amid paradise. It leads back to the road, where a truck rumbles past, carrying the day's first visitors, unaware of the temple's secret. You tuck the wooden totem into your belt, its carved edges now smoother than ever. It feels less like a key and more like a witness, a testament to 100 hours of trial, transformation, and tenacity. You pat your chest, feeling the rapid drum of life thrumming beneath. Each heartbeat is a reminder that you emerged unbroken and alive. Jonas exhales, voice hoarse but bright. Home. He points over the ridge, where a thin plume of smoke rises, perhaps from a small village or a hunter's fire. You nod, recalling how hunger once drove you to share that last energy bar, how fear once threatened to undo you both. Now, with dawn as your companion, the world feels vast and waiting. You step onto the logging trail, boots crunching on the gravel. Each stride feels lighter, buoyed by sunlit air and the surety of solid ground. The path slopes gently downward, guiding you toward the distant road. You glance back once at the temple's dark silhouette, intertwined with jungle, and whisper, "Thank you," for its trials, its silence, its hidden heart, and the freedom it returned you. Side by side on the trail, you and Jonas walk toward what comes next. Meals, warmth, the comfort of civilization, and beyond that, stories to share under starlit skies. With every step, dawn heralds not just a new day, but a new chapter carved from courage, solidarity, and the unwavering truth that even the deepest darkness can yield to light. You leave the logging trail behind as it bends toward the distant hum of civilization, stepping onto a narrow dirt road where the sun's rays fall warm across your shoulders. Your heartbeat slows, each footstep lighter than the last, as though the temple's weight has finally lifted from your bones. The air here tastes of dust and early traffic, a far cry from the damp hush of stone corridors, but it carries a promise. This road leads not only home, but forward. Each stride you take feels like a reclamation. You remember the first hours of panic, the cold slam of realization when your flashlight battery died, and the claustrophobia of total darkness. You recall the chorus of whispers that guided you, the humming gears, and the screech of shifting stone. Now your senses drink in open sky and bird calls. The world feels vast again, unbounded by pillars and traps. You glance at Jonas walking beside you, his gait steadier with each step. His face, once etched with desperation, now holds a quiet calm. You share a glance, no words needed. Both of you carried fear and hunger through that ancient heart, and both emerged changed. You realize that freedom isn't just exiting a temple, it's carrying its lessons into the living world. Ahead, a motorbike rattles past, leaving a swirl of dust in its wake. You brush it from your jeans, smiling at its ordinary absurdity. This is your new normal. The roar of engines, instead of echoing, drips sunlight on your face. Instead of torchlight dancing on walls. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the road's open air, tasting freedom in its purest form. Your mind drifts to what awaits: a cool shower, food that doesn't crumble, a bed that doesn't shift under you. You think of sharing this story, how you faced shifting corridors by marking your own path, how you spoke truth to open doors, how you and Jonas forged an alliance in desperation. These tales will carry you forward, not as trophies, but as reminders of your strength. You touch the wooden totem at your belt, a companion from the first chamber to the last threshold. It's lighter now, its carving softer from your journey. You flip it in your palm, recalling the ritual dais where it fit perfectly. That little piece of wood, once a key to darkness, is now a talisman for every new beginning. A pair of hikers emerges from the opposite direction, maps in hand, chatting animatedly about trails and viewpoints. They pause as they spot you, and you nod, a greeting, camaraderie born of shared exploration. No need to explain your ordeal. Your wind-browned frame and dust-caked boots tell enough of the story. You feel a kinship with all wanderers who risk comfort for discovery, who learn that true navigation begins within. The road bends again, and sunlight spills through a gap in the trees, illuminating a weathered sign, Village 5 Kalmesi. You note the distance with a nod, mindful of your swollen feet, but buoyed by the anticipation of human warmth. In the distance, smoke rises from kitchen fires, promising the aroma of spices you can almost taste. You share a look with Jonas, and both of you pick up the pace, energy returning with purpose. Every step is lighter, the road unfolding like a ribbon of possibility. You think of the sunlit courtyards you left far below, and the shadows you conquered. In their place, a landscape of open fields and welcoming homes rises before you. As the village rooftops begin to pierce the tree line, you pause to watch them catch the early light, brick reds and weathered greys glowing in the sun. You lift your face, eyes closed, letting the warmth settle into your skin. You've survived 100 hours in an ancient temple's heart, but now you live in every breath of fresh air and every footstep on open ground. You take Jonas's hand briefly in silent thanks, then release it as you both step toward the entrance of the village. You carry the temple's trials inside you, a tapestry of fear, grit, and hope as you walk into the world beyond its stone walls. As the sun continues its arc, painting the sky in a gradient of apricot and rose, you find yourself slowing to match its unhurried pace. The dust settles on your boots, and every step feels measured, deliberate, as though the earth beneath you insists on a gentleness born of resilience. Let your shoulders drop, releasing the tension of wilderness echoes and chamber whispers. Feel how your chest expands, inhaling the serenity that only morning light can offer after nights spent in shadow. Close your eyes for a moment and listen the soft rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the distant laughter of villagers tending to their morning chores, the rhythmic clop of horseshoes on soft road. Each sound is a reminder that life flows onward, continuous and kind. Let these everyday symphonies wash over you, guiding your breath into a steady, calming rhythm. Feel your heartbeat slowing each beat, a tranquil drum marking the passage from trial to renewal. The weight of the totem at your belt, once a symbol of survival's urgency, now rests lightly against your side, an emblem of transformation rather than fear. Allow its smooth wood to remind you that every carved edge is a testament to what you endured and overcame. As you walk into the village, imagine your steps imprinting seeds of courage. Wherever you go, seeds that will grow into stories shared over warm fires and soft pillows. Let this narrative of darkness, navigated alliances forged and inner truths spoken, settle into your bones, a gentle embers glowing beneath your skin. Inhale again, drawing in the fragrance of fresh bread baking and smoke curling from cook fires. Let gratitude fill your senses. Gratitude for the strength discovered in deepest corridors, for the kindness found in unexpected allies, for the quiet voice of truth that unlocked hidden doors. Exhale all lingering shadows. Now, as the world hums with morning's promised trust that this journey has changed you, not just by what you saw, but by who you became along the way. Carry this calm confidence forward into every dawn that awaits.